ecological and sustainability. But some of the things that we've been seeing, I just want to tell you some of these things. For example, when we went to the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, we went to Kotagiri. Many of the people who've got individual forest rights in Kotagiri, they're so worried about the forest department and coercion by the forest department. One is that many people claim that it's easier to negotiate with the forest department to get individual forest rights over community rights, which you already talked about. You said why that would be the case. But the second thing is that a lot of people in Kotagiri have expressed the opinion that when they get individual forest rights, even though originally they were using agroforestry methods which were about plantation of ragi and vegetables and crops that they themselves feed upon, now they're converting them into plantations of eucalyptus, casuarina, acacia. And they're doing this because if they plant the crops that they usually used to plant without cutting the native trees from the forest, it becomes very hard to prove to the forest department that that land belongs to them. The forest department says this plot of land, while you might have patta and all that, this plot of land has native trees. So it belongs to the forest, it does not belong to you. So they're planting these trees because it clearly demarcates that somebody has planted it in the recent present. That's one. So more of this, just that one. Then in Gudulur, the same thing is happening. People have claimed individual forest rights, have got plots of land. They again used to grow ragi and stuff like that. They've cut that out and are growing tea plantations. And tea plantations again to be able to assert their rights in front of the forest department, to continue to assert their rights over the forest department. In both these cases, what's happening is that according to this forest policy, 40% of land, which is 5% forest cover, should be then open to industry for timber plantations and growing the same kind of crops. And I also want to tell you that in Kotagiri, the Nabad project is basically encouraging these people, these tribal communities, to grow pomegranate, acacia, casuarina, eucalyptus. All of these have negative effects ecologically, right, in terms of water, in terms of reducing biodiversity. And so they reduce forest cover. And all the reduced forest cover, to me, it seems like as if a long-term plan by the government to reduce forest cover and reduce it to 5% forest cover, where then it can be diverted to industrial land. I just wondered if that's one somebody here mentioned, is the definition of degraded land or land which is low productivity one way in which the forest department is hiding its increasing tendency to commercialization. I wanted to know if this is a long-term plan.
You're ascribing more rationality to government than it deserves. No government has a long-term plan. And I don't subscribe to this view that the definition of what is a degraded forest is undergoing a change in order to bring about a certain end objective. No, I don't subscribe to this view at all. I don't disagree with the symptoms of the problem that you have identified, but I certainly disagree with your diagnosis, which is that this is part of a grand design of the forest department. I don't agree. I don't buy that.
This is in relation to.
I think people are doing this because they find it is in their economic interest to do it. That is what I would argue. It would not be not because the forest department has this wonderful plan in order to ensure that their long-term objective is.
Yeah, ma'am, we need to go to the last two questions.
This is just one question.
This is a broader question which Leo also kind of mentioned in his opening remarks in terms of the process or rather the formulations of policies and laws with this present regime. So we are seeing a tendency which is just not the forest policy, and Professor Rajiv Gowda is there, who knows for a fact that two bills, for example, the Transgender Persons Bill 2018 and the Anti-Trafficking Bill, where the present stakeholders are not being consulted. We are told there have been 19 versions of the Anti-Trafficking Bill. The Cabinet has recently passed. There's no available document which further marginalizes sex workers. There's a tendency where the governments, more than so increasingly, especially the present regime, is not listening to the stakeholders, for example, but we have the so-called think tanks, emergence of think tanks. To give you a specific example, you have this called a think tank called the Vidi Legal Consultancy, which we know for a fact has been consulting the government on the anti-trafficking legislations, on the transgender persons legislations, which is an offshoot of Arun Jaitley. In Bangalore, we know, for example, the BPAC in relation to the tender shoe projects. You have these very high-profile elitist Indians who kind of gang up because who have access to the governments and go and push on their own value. In this context, where do you really see where stakeholders, where marginalized communities, where laws and legislations really belongs to absolutely, and governments and increasingly documents are not being available. There have been 19 versions, and none of them know what these versions are and who have been really formulating. Can just kind of speak about this, please, because this is really impacting the communities at the ground.
Let's take the last question.
Yeah.
Also. We'll answer all of them.
Thanks a lot for organizing this talk on very vibrant and hot topic of this day, like for all of us. But this is in general it's my observation, and my observation in itself is a question. Like we had talked about everything. We talked about Forest Act, we talked about Green Tribunal, we talked about grasslands, we talked about everything related to forest. But, and I'm also a member of a forest group, email group, Google group. And there also I found this one particular thing that we talked everything about forest, even here also, but we never talked about SAST Dilution Act, the dilution of SAST Act. SAST Act, dilution of.
The discussion on the environment.
Yeah, so that's what.
The current political situation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that this in particular because last 2-3 years, if people might not know it, that there are tribal peoples who are using this SAST Act to get the forest right acts been implemented by the bureaucrats. They're also using it to get these lazy bureaucrats to work for them. And this is, I'm not saying coming out of anywhere, but this is an organization called Vasudha, which has been working a lot in the Forest Rights Act, has collected actually proofs about this sort of case studies. And we also had, last year only, we had also had a discussion in Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Mumbai, where a lawyer was brought for speaking and interacting how tribals can actually use this SAST Act in order to make the forest department work for them.
Excuse me, which SCSC Act are you talking about? The Prevention of Atrocities?
Yeah.
The Prevention of Atrocities?
Yeah.
You're using the Prevention of Atrocities Act to get forest rights?
Yeah, that's what, there are people, there is evidence, yeah.
No, I mean, look, the Prevention of Atrocities SCST Act is on the statute books.
Yeah.
It's very much under debate right now because of the Supreme Court dilution. But this is the first time I'm hearing that rights which accrue to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes under the Forest Rights Act are being settled by taking recourse to the Prevention of Atrocities Act.
Yeah.
Unless you're defining denial of a right as an atrocity. I mean, if that is happening, this is the first time I'm hearing it.
No, this is what has been happening now. Because the officers...
I'm willing to be educated on it. I'm willing to be educated. Because denial of a right is certainly an atrocity.
Yeah.
You can have physical atrocity, you can have psychological
Sure.
atrocity, you can have an economic atrocity. So I am 100% with the argument that the denial of a right under the Forest Rights Act is an atrocity under the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe Prevention of Atrocities Act. In fact, you have given me an interesting point to raise in Parliament. You know, I am going to raise this. It's a very interesting point.
But this is exactly what is being explored in this particular area. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have case studies
Yeah.
of tribals who have taken recourse to the Atrocities Act to get their forest rights,
Yeah.
please give it to me.
Definitely, there is.
Because this is something that did you know about it? Did you know about it? I didn't know. Did you know about it? I didn't. So, educate us.
Okay.
The previous question was about stakeholders, about Vidhi Legal, for example, and their role in one particular law, with BPAC and sort of Bangalore's elites in pushing through tender shore, etc. So this is, do you have any view on elite stakeholders and their impact?
I have a view on Vidhi Legal, but if you want to hear my views on Vidhi Legal, that's a separate issue. But I think that's the question is on, but what is the purport of the question?
The context is that the policy formulation of this administration is largely governed, and also your administration in the past, was not necessarily processes and legislature, but there were big groups, including foreign funded things.
No, no, listen. This is a typical Saldana exaggeration. No, no. Let me address this issue. 1 second. Let me address this issue. There is no law that was passed in the 10 years that I was in the government. There was no law that was drafted by a think tank. In fact, the criticism of our laws was they were drafted by jholawalas. They were drafted by civil society. Right to information, civil society. Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Act, civil society. Forest Rights Act, civil society. Right to education, civil society. National Food Security Act, civil society. Land Acquisition Act, part civil society and part state government. If your argument is that in the last 4 years, thinking has been outsourced to organizations like Vidhi Legal, I agree with you 100%. I agree that think tanks have substituted civil society organizations. In fact, civil society has a bleak future under the current establishment because I'm not making an election pitch, but I'm just giving you a reality. This government does not believe in civil society. It does not believe that civil society has an important, vital role to play. Period. So the doors to civil society have been closed. FCRA inquiries have started. Many civil society organizations have been blacklisted. Many of them are being, the vendetta is being unleashed on many of these civil society organizations. No, no, yeah. They have their own notion of what a civil society is. You must wear half pants and all that. That's a separate issue. However, civil society today is under severe threat. And mark my words, my government was also very ambivalent on civil society. No, FCRA came much earlier. FCR,